My name is Batanai Sindra, an international relations student at Africa University Platform. Thank you for joining me today. Today we'll be discussing about the topic on your screen, navigating Africa's economic growth amid global challenges, strategies for resilience and diversification. So before we start, please kindly subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.
Winds of economic change are constantly blowing across Africa. But knowing that these gusts will sway through our economies, we can plan ahead to reap their benefits and mitigate their challenges. This is why in January of 2023, the African Development Bank launched the inaugural Africa's Macroeconomic Performance and Outlook Report. Now we present the 2024 edition, an assessment of Africa's macroeconomic performance in 2022 and 2023 and its short to medium-term outlook for 2024 and 2025 amid dynamic global economic developments. Africa has recently faced significant headwinds, ranging from the COVID-19 pandemic to global conflicts and regional political instabilities, slowing the continent's growth in tandem with global economic uncertainty. While Africa's average real GDP growth fell to an estimated 3.2% in 2023 from 4.1% in 2022, 15 African countries grew by 5% or more. This reflects the rebound in investment, tourism, mining, and economic diversification. Africa also remains the second fastest growing region after Asia, underpinning the continent's resilience to shocks. The slowdown just in average growth corresponds to the regional variations based on domestic policies in place to cushion the impact of shocks. Economic growth in Central Africa is projected to drop from an estimated 3.8% in 2023 to 3.5% in 2024, then rise to 4.1% in 2025. East Africa is expected to post higher growth of 5.1% in 2024 and 5.7% in 2025, up from an estimated 3.5% in 2023. Real GDP growth in North Africa is projected to remain steady at 3.9% in 2024, then improve slightly to 4.1% in 2025. Southern Africa is projected to experience slight growth from an estimated 1.6% in 2023 to 2.2% in 2024 and 2.6% in 2025. West Africa's GDP growth is projected to rise from an estimated 3.2% in 2023 to 4% in 2024 and continue to 4.4% in 2025. Inflation in Africa has risen since COVID-19, driven by increasing global food and energy prices, domestic fiscal largesse, domestic agricultural supply shocks, and the depreciation of national currencies against the US dollar. At the same time, deficits have improved due to relatively better revenue performance following a slump during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2022. Public debt is declining, but debt vulnerabilities remain elevated. Higher borrowing costs and public debt reflect tightening global financial conditions, which have limited African governments' investments in growth-promoting sectors. Overall, Africa's external position is expected to deteriorate in 2024, driven by declining global commodity prices. Yet, despite the decline in foreign direct investments to Africa, Africa remained attractive, with new projects increasing by 39% to 766, and in 2022, Africa accounted for 40% of mega projects, meaning those worth more than $10 billion each. If well executed and successful, these projects will offer growth, job creation, and technology transfer to the continent. Lifting Africa's growth from the slowdown of 2023 will require a policy mix including adopting policies to tame elevated inflation and creating incentives to stimulate economic growth, accelerating economic diversification, strengthening exports, and fiscal consolidation to increase resilience to shocks. Sustained governance reforms to strengthen debt management capacity, strong fiscal institutions to efficiently mobilize more domestic resources and ensure their prudent use. Scaling up government investments in digital infrastructure to curb resource leakages and improve efficiency of service delivery. Building a workforce with appropriate skills. Reforms to the global financial aid architecture to mobilize resources at scale that meet Africa's development financing needs. Africa does not have to merely go where its economic winds blow. With this report, we can analyze, plan and execute policies that propel our economies towards development that makes our nation soar.
As we discuss Africa's economic growth, it's crucial to acknowledge the global challenges that have significantly impacted the continent. From the COVID-19 pandemic to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, these crises have exposed vulnerabilities in African economies. Today, we explore strategies for building resilience and diversifying economies to ensure sustainable growth. Firstly, we'll look at 1. Global challenges facing Africa. African economies are confronted with a multitude of global challenges that significantly impact their growth and stability. These challenges include economic shocks like the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine that has disrupted global supply chains and led to economic instability. For instance, the pandemic resulted in reduced foreign investment trade affecting African economies heavily. Countries like South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, which have relied on tourism, saw significant declines in revenue due to travel restrictions and lockdowns during COVID. Ukraine conflict affected countries like Egypt and Kenya faced increased food and energy costs, affecting inflation and economic stability. Second segment, we'll look at the vulnerabilities in African economies. The first part is dependency on commodity exports. Many African countries rely heavily on exporting raw materials, making the prices very high. Over half of African countries derive at least 60% of their export earnings from oil, gas, or minerals. The second point is high debt levels. Nearly half of African nations had debt to GDP ratios above 60% in 2023, with many spending more than a debt interest than on education or health. For example, Zambia's debt to GDP ratio exceeds 70%, and Ghana dedicates a significant portion of its taxes revenue to debt servicing. The third point is weak infrastructure. Inadequate transportation and energy infrastructure hinders economic efficiency and growth. Transport costs within Africa are among the highest globally, often the underdeveloped radio networks. Niger, Chad, and African Republic, and the DRC. These countries have some of the lowest electrification rates in Africa, with less than 20% of their population having access to electricity. Despite having better infrastructure than many African countries, South Africa still faces challenges with water management, sanitization, particularly in rural areas. The second challenge affecting Africa's economic growth amid global challenges is climate change. Rising temperatures and extreme weather events threaten agriculture productivity and infrastructure, further complicating economic developments. In 2022, climate disasters affected 110 Africans, causing 8.5 billion in damages. The third challenge is geopolitical tensions. These tensions have led to the increased food and energy prices, impacting inflation and economic stability across Africa. The conflict in Ukraine, for example, has exhausted energy and food prices. Now, in the third segment, we'll look at the strategies for resilience and diversification. The first point is economic diversification. The strategy is to encourage industrialization and service sectors to reduce reliance on commodities. For example, Rwanda has successfully diversified its economy by investing in tourism, technology, and manufacturing, reducing its dependency on agriculture. Impact: Rwanda's GDP growth has been robust and it has become a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship in East Africa. The second point is invest in infrastructure. Strategy: develop integrated infrastructure to enhance connectivity and efficiency. For example, Ethiopia has invested heavily in transportation infrastructure, including construction of new railways and roads, which has improved trade facilitation and economic integration. Impact: Ethiopia's infrastructure development has attracted foreign investment and boosted economic growth. Third point, promote inter-African trade. Strategy: strengthen regional trade networks through agreements like the AfCFTA. For example, Egypt has actively engaging with AfCFTA to increase inter-African trade, which has helped diversify its export markets and reduce dependency on external trade. Impact: increased intra-African trade can enhance economic resilience by reducing reliance on global markets. The fourth point is foster innovation and technology. Strategy: leverage technology to drive growth in economic sectors like renewable energy and digital services. Example, South Africa has invested in renewable energy, creating jobs and reducing dependency on fossil fuels. Additionally, its tech sector is growing rapidly, contributing to economic diversification. Impact. This strategy not only creates jobs but also positions South Africa as a leader in sustainable energy solutions. Fifth point, integration into global supply chains. Strategy. Position Africa's strategic location for global supply chains, particularly in high-tech industry. For example, the DRC leveraging in vast mineral resources such as cobalt, copper to become a key supplier for electric vehicle and electronics manufacturers. This integration into global supply chains can enhance economic resilience by creating new industries and jobs. Impact is highlighted in the UNCTAD report. Africa's abundance of critical minerals can make it a crucial player in technology-intensive supply chains, driving into industrialization and sustainable development. Sixth point, greening supply chains. Strategy. Utilize Africa's renewable energy potential to reduce carbon footprints in supply chains. For example, Morocco is investing in solar energy, which can power energy-intensive industries like steel, chemicals, making them more sustainable and competitive. Impact. This approach only supports environmental sustainability but also lowers production costs, making African economies more attractive for global companies. In summary, African countries are adopting various strategies to build resilience and diversify their economies. These include economic diversification, infrastructure development, promoting inter-African trade, fostering innovations, integrating into global supply chains, and greening supply chains. For example, from countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, Egypt, South Africa, the DRC, and Morocco demonstrate the potential for successful economic transformation. In conclusion, we are saying that while global challenges pose a significant risk to African economies, there are opportunities for growth through diversification, resilience building strategies. By investing in infrastructure, promoting inter-African trade, and fostering innovation, and Africa can unlock its vast potential and achieve sustainable economic development. Thank you for watching this video, and please kindly like and share.